Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello, family.
So we're looking at the Black Sea, guys.
Yeah, I mean, why would we be looking at this?
Well, there's some things going on right now, and when you look at this, you see it's totally encapsulated here by land. The way to get in is down here through Istanbul, down through these straits. Now we can see the countries around it: Turkey, Georgia. We have Ukraine, Russia. And we also have Romania and Bulgaria. And when we look at this area, for me, because, I'm more of somebody that doesn't believe that our military needs to be in 90% of the countries around the world if it's really just simply protecting the United States.
I know, there's one thing when we're protecting something, and then there's another thing when we are just sort of placing ourselves there to have a stake in something.
Yeah, so, it's interesting what a difference a few weeks makes as we're looking. This is out of Intel Air and Sea, and you see that flyby there. So the USS Donald Cook was operating the Black Sea. This was yesterday when a Russian Su-24 conducted a low pass close to the ship. Actually, it was 2 days ago now. That's a pretty close pass.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she's like right there. You could almost look in the cockpit.
Actually, we did have one go right by us that close when we were going up. What was it? Is that I-75 over it?
I think.
Oh, 95 by Nellis. We had one fly along the side of us, maybe 50 miles outside of Vegas.
Yeah, the strangest thing with that was it was silent.
It was totally silent,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they do that. I mean, we didn't even hear it. We saw it. It was right next to us,
Yeah.
and he was probably 15 feet at the most off the ground, which was amazing.
That was insane.
So going back to this, we look over here, and we see a Russian bomber low passes U.S. destroyer in the Black Sea. Russia's move threatens to further fuel tensions with NATO allies. Well, Russia's move, we're in the Black Sea. This is to me. I look at this and think it's almost like, well, how would we take it if Russia was in Lake Superior? The United States isn't over here at all, and I don't know. Yeah, it's obviously there's something going on, and you see two U.S. destroyers enter the Black Sea, and Russia responds. As you got a photo there of the Donald Cook. For the first time in 3 years, the Navy has sent 3 ships, including 2 destroyers, into the Black Sea just days after President B confronted Vladimir Putin about Russian policy. Isn't it amazing? I mean, the focus has shifted completely to a different country. It was all, the fine dining ware country with the last administration, and now it's all the big bad bear. It's completely shifted priorities, completely.
Well, what are we to make of that, though?
Well, would you share what the guides told you in a gentle way that won't get us in trouble?
Yeah, I can try. When I did ask them, they said that since a certain person took over in our White House, there's direct ties, there's special interests there.
Okay, so like something personal going on,
Yes.
Definitely, which is interesting. It's interesting to say the least when we're looking at this because, again, Russia and China always do military exercises. Well, not always, but they often do military exercises together, and they have been allied. Yet, there's so much more that goes on deep below the surface. One of my sources that is like in deep, politically, has said that ultimately, they're going to be at each other's throats and at some point in time. And that could be after a major confrontation with the West, or maybe that confrontation never happens, because there are like incursions that go along, even though they are allied. There's say Chinese settlements that are actually like right on the border. Same sort of situation that happened with India to a degree, although it's just kind of ignored, when they're actually literally on Russian soil because they are allies, so to speak, but allies maybe not forever. And this is just curious. U.S. Air Force bombers deployed in Norway for the first time. The Air Force is deploying bombers and airmen to a base in Norway for the first time, underscoring the growing importance of the Arctic region. Yeah, it's like the big bad boogeyman has totally changed now with the change of, however we want to put it, administrations. I'll be proper. Mm-hmm. And, here you see Norway over here as well. And actually, when you get down to it, as far as like ice cutters and stuff and the ability to get through the Arctic, Russia's way ahead of us, way ahead of us. They've been ahead a long time, so they're able to utilize and, take advantage of the natural resources that are up there much more than the U.S. is.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
And this just came out from Fox News 2 hours ago. Top U.S. nuclear commander, there's a real possibility that a regional crisis with either of these two could escalate quickly into a conflict involving horrible weapons of the N type. So Admiral Richard warns the N-word employment is a very real possibility. Well, that should never be a possibility. And that shows just how insane the leadership that's on this planet is, because it is. They're totally insane. And when those things are even just tested, they really wreck the fabric. They do damage in other dimensions and densities.
Oh, they do a lot of damage. It's just such an impact, and there's many tears in the ether, and it just causes all kinds of problems.
Yeah, if you view yourself as being in a symbiotic relationship with the planet itself, you can't even test those things. It's just a horrible thing to even contemplate. And again, this shows, in my mind, that there's insanity at the top. Either insanity or these people are just so self-destructive. They're, just like those people that can't help themselves, and they constantly do self-destructive things.
Yeah, they definitely do.
And on RT, there was a funny video of this. So there was a military takeover in Myanmar. And, Myanmar is between Thailand and Bangladesh and India. And the Biden administration has formally determined that the military takeover in Myanmar constitutes a coup d'etat, a designation that requires the U.S. to cut its foreign assistance to the country. And, it's interesting because this was over a very similar reason to why there was a lot of unrest over in this country, not trusting what they tell us, basically. And so that's really curious. That really feels like a global, play that's still underway. This is big. These chess pieces are being played all across the globe, and unfortunately, when we realize, that the game is totally, as we were going to say, playing with loaded dice, so to speak. And I think that's getting more and more obvious all the time. We do see a lot of movement going on right now as far as the fleet going on. We see the Nimitz is over here, and it's right at the tip of India. They think it's probably heading back to port, and perhaps the U.S. Carl Vinson will replace it. Here you see the Mackinac Island is over in the Indian Ocean as well. And then we have some games going on, some exercises going on off the U.S. East Coast. And we do have three still in place, three carrier groups over here in the Pacific, in the Western Pacific. So interesting, 88 ships are what they are saying is deployed, which is a decent amount, but not past typical, except for the fact that it seems like they've augmented a lot of these groups with ships that they don't count, so to speak. So taking a quick peek too at some of the topics they're talking about over on South Front. You're talking about the guy that was released, and now he's not released anymore, and he's facing 2 years and 7 months in prison over in Russia again. And then we see the pick for the Pentagon's Mideast desk brag that the U.S. owns Syrian oil territory. And, there again, we still have people over there. So does Turkey, so does Russia, and so does Syria. So it's a crazy scenario that we see happening over there. Crazy, and you would have thought maybe things would de-escalate, but they've de-escalated in one area and they've escalated in another area.
Well, it's like they got it down to a science, and ultimately it all overall is going to escalate until something gives, and that something has got to be close.
So you have to ask yourself, is it all just about fear? Is it all just about creating loosh and having us always worried about one boogeyman or another? Is there a lot of actual special interests going on? And that could be as well. It's so curious, though, that how things give you whiplash.
It is, just watching things and seeing how things change so suddenly.
Yeah, and I've shared with you guys before, I had a bad feeling back in 2016 when that election was going on. If a certain lady got in, I really felt we were going to see WW3 on our doorsteps. And, even though things have changed completely here, it still doesn't feel like there's any less chance of that.
Right. Well, there is one destiny, but different paths. So.
Yeah, again, it's about shifting timelines, because we did feel a shift in the timeline. And it's interesting, like when you feel these energetic shifts and things feel all of a sudden a little bit better, a little bit more brighter, then it's like the dark forces start to do their own pushback and try to shift things again into something that would be not as benevolent.
Well, they do their best, and we've heard from a lot of people there's been a lot of difficulty with this timeline shift. And all you can do is just work through it best you can.
There's intense energies out there. People are feeling intense energies. We've seen the Schumann, be off the hook at times. It feels more like these energies are tougher in some ways. They're like getting tar on your shoe. It's kind of tough to get it off.
Yeah, and it's difficult to remove blocks too. I have noticed when working on people, it's like I don't just remove one layer. No, then another layer comes back up. So that's a good point.
There's been people with a ton of blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, way more than normal. So it's really is like people that are the late workers and just people in general, even people that are asleep. There are these dark energies that seem to be having a Thanksgiving Day feast, so to speak, on their end.
It is, and it's just like a shark feeding frenzy. And the most important thing you can do is just recognize that, and then step out of that paradigm. Don't let them feed anymore. Starve them out.
Yeah, that's where that daily spiritual practice, as well as physical, get physical exercise as well, get the blood pumping, you get the endorphins going, stay in tip-top shape. As far as your immune system, it's very important these days.
So important. Really watch that. Boost your immune system as much as possible any chance you get.
Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Anybody needs to reach out to us to set up an appointment, it's EEARTS at Proton Mail or evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.